Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the end of the month. The end of the month is always an exciting time because it's a time to reflect on my reading month and also look forward to my next reading month, which I really enjoy. It's a lot of fun to look back at the books that I read over the last month and then look forward and build a TBR for next month. And I have to say, I'm really excited for next month's TBR. I've been thinking about it a lot, going back and forth on what I want to do and how I want to do it, what I want to read. And I have to say, it's going to be a fun month, I think, all things considered. I'm pretty happy with the books that I have selected for my TBR. But I don't want to get ahead of myself because that'll be tomorrow's video. Today's video is about looking at the books that I read this month. And last month I did this. I put them all in a tier list, which I was really happy with. So I wanted to do that again this month and rank everything that I read this month in a tier list. I did modify that tier list a little bit, so I'll go over the categories. But at the outset, I just want to say I had a very uneven reading month. I had a lot of really great reading experiences and a lot of really great books that I really enjoyed reading. So that was awesome. But the flip side of that was I had a lot of weird health things going on this month, which prevented me from reading as studiously as I would have liked to. And it also meant that I deviated a fair bit from what I had set myself up for at the beginning of the month with my TBR, because I just didn't have the fortitude to read some of the things that I had set myself to read at the beginning of the month. But regardless, I do allow myself the freedom to dip in and out of a TBR that I set myself, especially because I do a lot of book shopping throughout the month, and some of the things that I buy when I'm used book shopping, I cannot restrain myself from reading. There are plenty of books on this list that are examples of that, books that I found in my local used bookstore that I just was like, nope, I can't stop myself from reading this. So I will end up adding it to the pile of things that I want to read, independent of the fact that it's probably not on my TBR for the beginning of the month. But anyway, exciting video tomorrow. Can't wait to do that. And let's go over the books that I read this month and the categories that I have. Hopefully you like tier lists. I enjoy them. I have a lot of really great categories, I think. I modified it, like I said, and I've got the iPad here. So the screen is recording, and you should see it. You should see it pop up somewhere. I don't know how I'll edit it, but basically with tier lists, you know, we'll go from worst to best here. The bottom category is the just no category. Pretty self-explanatory, but anything that's going to go in here is something that I just flat out did not like, did not think was good in any way, and I'm not going to really spend much time trying to reconsider it in any way. I'm just going to move on with my life. The one above that is the not now, I guess tier, which is like books that I didn't like. Objectively, truthfully, I didn't like my reading experience with it, but I'm not writing it off. It's not the just no category where I'm just like DNFing it or whatever, and I'm just not looking back at it. Like, if I might end up returning to it, and if I put a book that you love in the not right now, I guess category, you might be able to jump into the comments and change my mind on it, if that ever happens. But anything that goes in that category is something that I don't like, but I might end up returning to at some point. Above that is the could have lived without it. This is kind of like a C tier or a D tier, just something that it was fine, it was whatever, but I could go my entire life without reading it. I could have gone my entire life without reading it and I would have died just as happy as of a person having never read that thing. Then above that is the glad I read it category. This is something that I am a little less neutral on. I'm glad that I read it, but I probably won't go ahead and read it again, or it's not a really high priority to read again. This is like a B-ish tier equivalent, whatever. It's positive, it's not negative, but it's not something that I'm like actively wanting to reread. But above that is the category, I can't wait to reread it again or read it again. This is for anything that I really enjoyed or enjoyed to the extent that I want to reread it. Um, well, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. And then above that, this is my newest addition to the tier list. It's in the canon. It's in the canon as for any book that I read and I go, I was here. I read that. I loved it. I had an experience with it. That book meant something to me at the time. Anything that I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna put a pin in that and say that I was there for it. I read it, and it's in my personal canon. Not an objective, history of Western literature, greatest things of all time canon. I mean, like my own personal, like, something happened when I read this book. It meant something to me on some level. And then above that is the grow old together tier. The books that you realize are going to be a friend for life. I explained in the last time that I did this tier list that I'm going to be very selective with what goes in there. I do not want to dilute that at all and put like any book that I had like a marginally good experience with in it. I just want to put like the greatest things I've ever read in there. Books like the Iliad, books like Moby Dick or Anna Karenina, like the best of the best, the greatest of the greatest. It doesn't have to be a classic. It could not, it certainly doesn't have to be a classic, but a lot of times they are, because the classics are some of the best things that humans have ever produced in terms of literature. But it has to be like the best of the best, and I'm not going to try and dilute that by just like throwing any old book that I really enjoyed into that category. It's something that it really has to jump out to me as being like a uniquely special and uniquely impressive experience. But these are like desert island books, books that you would grab if your house was burning down, books that you would grab if you had to live on a desert island for the rest of your life, whatever. These are books that you want to grow old with and you want to live with for the rest of your life. So that'll be reserved for special occasions, for books that really deserve it, hopefully. But let's get into it. The first book I read this month was actually a book called The Rocks Don't Lie, which is a book by the geologist David Montgomery. Poor geology, can't catch a break. Very few people are geology fans. I myself struggled a little bit with this book to find it particularly entertaining, but I am going to put it in the glad I read it category because I will champion geology whenever I get the chance. And I think David Montgomery did a good job with this book. It's an investigation, a geological investigation into Noah's flood. Some of the a rough sort of analog of what is in the Genesis account and then what is borne out in the actual geology of the world, and then how do these things compare? How does it compare to other flood myths that predominate around the world? Are all of these flood myths talking about one singular global flood, or are they talking about more local floods and whatnot? It was an interesting discussion, and I am glad that I read it, but no, I'm not going to reread it anytime soon, that's for sure. The next is The Agony and the Ecstasy. If you've been around on this channel, you know where this is going. This is going to go in the Just Know category, and I don't want to keep ripping into you The Agony and the Ecstasy, so I will leave it there, but this is a Just Know for me. I will never reread this book, and I am not interested in reading anything else that Irving Stone wrote. I'm sorry, but that was not a pleasant reading experience for me in any way. So that's going to go in the Just Know category. After that was Robert Penn Warren's All the King's Men. I read it in this really nice hardcore brace edition, although I have to admit that I spent most of my time on my Kindle when I was reading it. And this is going to jump up to It's in the Canon. I made a reading vlog of this book if you're interested in that. I also made a reading vlog of The Agony and the Ecstasy too, by the way. But you can see in that reading vlog, if you're interested in watching it, that this book tore into me in a very, very visceral way, a way that I wasn't expecting it to at all. All the King's Men is story of political corruption and intrigue and all sorts of things in the United States. It's a classic novel, or at least it's a more modern classic. Robert Penn Warren clearly had a massive chip on his shoulder when he was writing this book, and he pulled no punches in writing a brutal, realistic, very sort of gritty political novel that it was based off of a real politician, Huey Long. I don't know to what extent that the real Huey Long and the fictionalized Willie Stark, as he's known in the novel, where that deviates and how those two relate to each other. The endings seem to line up very similar to each other. But anyway, it's a great novel. I highly recommend it, and it's definitely going to go in my personal canon because I did have such an incredible experience reading it. The next is going to be Father and Son by Edmund Goss, and I said it was my favorite book of the year, and I kind of stand by that. I'm going to put that also, and it's in the canon. This is a book that's very special to me. It touches on a lot of things that I'm personally very interested in. It touches on a lot of experiences that I've somewhat have had personally in my own life. It talks about religion. It talks about the burgeoning of Darwin's theory of evolution and how that affected the world, how it affected scientists and everyday people and religious zealots at the time. And it is a very moving, I thought, account of Edmund Goss tracing his own childhood and his childhood growing up with his dad in sort of a single father household until his dad remarries. It's fascinating. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I thought that it was funny at times. I thought that it was extremely heartfelt for most of it. And the subtitle is A Study of Two Temperaments. And the book starts out with a wonderful framing of everything that is to follow, in the sense that it does live up to its subtitle. It is a study, in some sense, of how one generation influences another, how two generations of people interface with each other, how fathers interface with their sons, how children interface with their parents, how science interfaces with religion. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I had so much fun reading this, and I thought it was extremely, extremely interesting. So I said it was my favorite book of the year, and I stand by that, although I have also since read The Monk by Matthew Lewis, and I'm sorry for the redundancy here, but this is also going to go it's in the canon category because wow, did I have fun reading The Monk. I've gone on a couple of rants about how great this book is, or at least how much fun I had with it so far. I also made a reading vlog of this. So if you're interested in seeing my live reaction to it, check out the reading vlog. It is over the top. It is ridiculous. It is an amateurish affair at times, but everything about it that comes across as amateurish or comes across as the sort of machinations of a 19-year-old or whatever work very well for me. I think overall, anything that you could say as a really valid critique of the book actually endears me more to the book. I love it for all of its flaws. I love it for all of its maybe shortcomings or whatever. It is a piece of anti-Catholic or anti-monastic, at least, propaganda. There's so many things about it that I can understand why people wouldn't like, but for me, somebody who's interested in the Reformation, somebody who's interested in studies or at least popular depictions of monasticism, somebody who's interested in Catholic versus Protestant propaganda, all of that, it's fascinating, and the story itself I thought was extremely engaging. So that's going to be a canonical book for me as well. Next, we got to shake it up a little bit. This is Susan Sontag's On Photography. I did not make a video about it. I have this wonderful edition of it from a couple of years back when I got this as a birthday present, I believe, or a Christmas present. Can't remember. This is from the Folio Society. I was going to reread this and then make a video about it, talking about how much I love Susan Sontag and how much I love this book. And unfortunately, gosh, very unfortunately, I had a very negative experience going back to this book. I'm going to put it in the not now, I guess, category. It sucks because I've loved Susan Sontag for a long time, but coming back to these essays as somebody who's a little bit older and a little bit better read, I was not satisfied with some of the things that I was reading here. Not because I was disagreeing with it, but because I thought that, first of all, they were a lot drier than I remember them being. Second of all, I think that Susan Sontag has a lot of really brilliant moments. She has a lot of really great insights as a writer, as an essayist. But when you look at her essays overall, I think that they're kind of patchy. I don't think that they come together or coalesce into a piece of writing that is good as an argument or functional as an argument from beginning to end. I think that you get a lot of really great insights, a lot of really great observations and whatnot throughout the essay. But then when you step back and look at the whole thing as a whole, you're like, I don't really think that that is as great of an essay as a younger version of myself who was just completely overwhelmed by these ideas thought it was. That's just my own personal feeling. I'm not going to die on that hill. This is just sort of my own personal thing. But I was disappointed when I went back and reread this, and I decided against making a video about it. I was going to make a video about it. I was also going to make a video about this, talking about this Folio Society edition of it, which I also had a negative experience with. There are pictures all throughout this Folio Society. None of them really have anything to do with the text itself. These are almost totally irrelevant pictures that you see throughout the book. I just don't think that it's... I would say it's a matter of style over substance in a way that that bothers me a lot more now than it used to be in the past, because I think in the past I was more susceptible to the aesthetics of, like, you know, a book about photography, a book of essays that features the aesthetics of it used to really impress me a lot more than they do now. Now I just like reading things on my Kindle. I don't care about whether or not you've got pictures in your book or whether or not you're writing like supposedly really smart essays about whatever. I'm just not as convinced about it on the surface as I used to be, and I think that that sort of is part of the reason that I had a negative experience with it. So yeah, mini review, I guess, because I wasn't able to make a video about this because it was bumming me out a little bit too much. But I'm going to put that in the not now, I guess category. I'm not going to put it in the just no category because I'm never going to give up on Susan Sontag. I've loved her for too long, but this was not nearly the positive experience that I was hoping it was going to be. Okay, and then next we've got two books that I'm currently in the middle of reading. This is Charles Darwin, On the Origin of Species. I was reading this. I'm not done with it. I've been slowly picking my way through it. I'm going to put this in the glad I read it category because even though I'm not done with it, this is definitely something that's eminently worth reading. I am not going to make a video about it. I don't have anything particularly insightful to say about it. However, I am working on reading a bunch of things related to evolution because it's something that I've become massively interested in, basically out of the blue, for no other reason than I've read a lot of really great things about evolution, and it's really piqued my interest. So I'd like to, after I have this read and a couple of other things by Charles Darwin read and a couple of other things related to evolution read, particularly as it relates to the Huxleys, believe it or not, I would love to make an evolution video and just kind of go over all of the things that I've read related to evolution, the experiences that I've had related to reading it about evolution. I think that would be a lot of fun, all things considered. It's dry. This is not something that you're going to read at the edge of your seat. It's mainly a compendium of a lot of facts. A lot of facts that demonstrate the fact that animals change over time, that they evolve, that they go through changes that you know, manifest into larger evolutionary traits over time. You know the argument of the origin of species and evolution, and this is obviously the foundational text of that. If you're interested in the subject, obviously you really do have to read this at some point. So I'm enjoying reading it on that level. I'm not enjoying reading it on the level of like, this is a pulp novel and I'm really entertained by it. But it is too important for me not to read, and I'm glad that I have a copy of it and that I get the opportunity to kind of pick through it at the pace that I'm going at. So that's going to go in the glad I read it category. It might jump up after I'm done with it, but it certainly is not going to go in the could have lived without it category, because this is a book that I need to read regardless of whether or not I enjoy it. So, or regardless of whether or not I'm hanging off of every word. And then we've got East West Street. I'm going to finish this book today. I have not finished it as of making this video, but I'm going to jump this all the way up to can't wait to read it again already, because wow, this book is impressing the hell out of me. I recently hauled it on this channel. A bunch of people jumped in the comments and said that they really enjoyed this book. I can see why, and I don't usually talk about this on this channel, but the physical package of this book, this is a nice oversized floppy paperback, and it clocks in at $20, and I think it's really worth that. I mean, I am a big ebook enjoyer. I'm a big ebook advocate, even though a lot of people like to go analog with things. I think that ebooks have their place. I think that they're just objectively easier to read from in a lot of ways. But this is a really nice physical package that I'm glad that I have. And for $20, I actually do think it's worth it. Most books I think are completely overpriced and not worth the $35 hardcover price tag that usually they're saddled with. But in this case, $20 for this is really reasonable. It's got these wonderful pictures throughout, these wonderful reproductions of photographs throughout. A lot of, you can see here, some of them. They're all throughout. The book is formatted really nicely. There are maps. There are pictures of passports from the relevant characters in the book. It's great. And it traces the evolution and the genesis of the concepts that we refer to when we talk about genocide and crimes against humanity, which the history of an idea, which is what this book essentially boils down to in a way, is fascinating to me. Because the word genocide, the words crimes against humanity, they don't come from nowhere. In the case of these two, they actually are. You can trace them to two very specific people, and this book talks about those people and their lives, and it works in the author's grandfather. It's fascinating and it's wonderful. So I'm going to put this in the can't wait to read it again category, even though I haven't finished it yet, because I'm already wanting to reread it, even though I'm not finished with it yet. Again, I'll finish it today. I'm almost at the end, but I love it. Okay, and then after that, the last book I read, I don't have the physical copy of it here because I already gave it to somebody, but it's Careless People, the new memoir by Sarah Wynne Williams, her book about Facebook and her experiences there. It's sort of a tell-all expose of Facebook, and unfortunately, this is going to go in the could have lived without it category. I am so disappointed by this book. I'm so disappointed with Sarah in particular. She had the opportunity to say something much more profound than she ended up saying with the book. She ended up, I think, pulling a lot of her punches. I think that she was a little... She did not learn the right lessons, I think. I went on a long rant about this book. I posted a 30-minute video just talking about it. I think that she does a very admirable job in writing a memoir about her own personal experiences at Facebook. I really don't have much of a problem with how she presents the information that she presents in her book. I don't have much of a problem with really anything that she does, except for when she gets to the conclusion, and she basically comes to the conclusion that, things just could have been different if Mark Zuckerberg had just gone to the right meetings, if he had, I don't know, taken antidepressants or something. I have no idea where she gets the idea from and why she's so hell-bent on the idea that Facebook could have been a different thing, that it could have been a force for good, that it could have been a positive influence in the world. These were things that initially attracted her to the idea of working at Facebook, and I totally get that, and I totally respect that. But then she's just always surprised at the fact that the evil people who run Facebook make evil decisions and end up making the world a worse place for that. And I don't know why she's always... I was frustrated at that conclusion, at the conclusion that even after all of her experiences trying to teach and and get Mark Zuckerberg and the top brass at Facebook to recognize the hell that they're wreaking on the world through spreading misinformation and whatnot through their platform. She is always surprised at the fact that they are continually careless to the suffering and the problems that result from that, and it is just always blindsiding her. And yet she still comes to the conclusion that they could have done things differently. My point is that the negative outcomes of Facebook and the negative outcomes of the people who make those decisions are inevitable. They're inevitable because they're evil people, and evil people make evil decisions. And whether or not they could change if they went to therapy or whatnot, I have no idea, but it doesn't matter. It's not a practical solution. The practical solution is to not imagine that you can negotiate with evil, which is what I went on my rant about. So anyway, I don't want to repeat that rant, but there you go. That's the list. I have a book in every single category except for the Grow Old Together category, which frankly might happen every month. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, if you look, I read 3 great books, at least 3 great books, like really exceptional books this month. I'm happy with this list. I'm glad that I was able to read what I was able to read, even if I didn't enjoy a book like Agony, The Agony and the Ecstasy. I'm glad that I read it. I'm glad that I know that that is not for me. And I think I'm going to leave it there. Again, stay tuned for tomorrow. I will be, hopefully tomorrow, putting out my TBR for next month, which I'm really excited about. And I'll leave it there. Thank you, BookTube.